Have you ever left a doctor's office feeling unheard, dismissed, or quietly judged? Not because of what's wrong with you, but simply because of how many birthdays you've had? If you're a woman over 60, this conversation could be a turning point for your health, and maybe even save your life. Today, we're talking about something most people don't even realize is happening. The subtle, polite-sounding questions doctors sometimes ask that can carry hidden assumptions, manipulations, and yes, even outright ageism. These aren't harmless small talk. They can influence the care you get, the treatments you're offered, and the future of your health. Stay with me until the very end, because the fifth question we'll cover is one I've heard countless times in my career, and knowing exactly how to respond could protect your independence, your dignity, and your right to make decisions about your own body. Before we dive in, I'd appreciate it if you'd help me keep these conversations alive. Like this video if you believe older women deserve to be heard. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss an important health lesson. If you agree with what I'm saying as we go along, comment 1 below. And if you disagree, comment 0. I value your voice in this conversation. Now let's begin. Question number 1. Are you sure you want to know the results? Picture this, you're sitting in that cold, quiet exam room. The doctor flips through your chart, pauses, sighs just a little, and then looks up with a sympathetic half smile. Are you sure you want to know the results? Sounds gentle. Sounds protective. But here's the truth, sometimes this question isn't about protecting you at all. It's about the doctor avoiding a hard conversation, saving time, or skirting around something they don't want to explain in detail. Because here's what sharing results really requires: time, patience, and the ability to break complex medical language into something clear. It means being ready to answer your questions. It means caring enough to make sure you leave the office truly understanding what's happening in your body. Not every doctor wants to put in that effort in a packed day. Some use this question to subtly discourage you from asking too much. If you don't press for details, they don't have to spend 20 minutes explaining why your liver enzymes are high or why that X-ray looks different than before. But here's the problem. Ignorance isn't bliss when it comes to your health. Knowing early can be the difference between a quick, manageable fix and something life-threatening. I'll never forget Janet, a retired schoolteacher with a warm laugh and a love for knitting. She'd been feeling exhausted for months. Her previous doctor ran blood tests but casually brushed her off. Everything's probably fine. Do you even want the full breakdown? She trusted him and said no. 6 months later, still tired and frustrated, she came to see me. I pulled up that same blood work and my stomach dropped. Her iron was dangerously low, her platelets falling, and there were early signs pointing to a possible bone marrow disorder. We caught it in time, but the delay cost her months of suffering and a much more complicated treatment plan. And for what? Because her doctor didn't take the time to explain. So if you ever hear this question, look your doctor in the eye and say, "Yes, I want every detail. Please explain what these results mean for my health." Take notes. Ask follow-up questions. And if they still seem rushed or evasive, get a second opinion. Your body, your life, your right to know. Question number 2. Do you really want to go through all that at your age? This one is trickier because it's wrapped in what sounds like concern. But in reality, it can be pure, unfiltered ageism. When a doctor asks you this, they're not necessarily talking about your unique health, your personal goals, or your resilience. Too often, they're making a snap judgment based on a single number, your age. And I've seen the damage it can do. Margaret was 72, full of life. She walked 2 miles every morning, kept a thriving garden, hosted her book club every week. The only thing slowing her down was the severe arthritis in her knees. Pain so sharp it made every step feel like a battle. She saw a surgeon about knee replacement. Instead of weighing the risks and benefits with her, he leaned back in his chair, looked her over and asked, "Do you really want to go through all that at your age?" Margaret left that appointment deflated, not just in pain but questioning her worth. Was she too old to deserve relief? Should she just learn to live with it? When she came to me, I was furious on her behalf. We talked through her options, her recovery prospects, and what it would mean for her quality of life. With her determination and overall good health, she was an excellent candidate. She had the surgery, healed beautifully, and was back walking her morning route within months. Imagine if she'd listened to that surgeon's question. She'd still be in pain today, because someone decided her age mattered more than her health, her lifestyle, or her will to keep living fully. That's just the beginning of the story. 3 more questions are still ahead, and the last one is disturbingly common. The difference between knowing how to respond or staying silent could mean the difference between years of independence and years of unnecessary decline. So don't go anywhere. Question number 3. Do you have someone at home to take care of you? Now, on the surface, this might seem like a reasonable question, maybe even thoughtful. But in certain contexts, especially when it's asked before you've even discussed treatment options, it can be quietly manipulative. Here's why. Sometimes this question isn't about your support system at all. It's about whether the doctor thinks you're too much trouble for a recovery process. It can be their way of mentally ruling out certain procedures or therapies before you've even had a chance to decide for yourself. Take Evelyn. At 68, she was dealing with a stubborn heart rhythm issue. Her cardiologist recommended a procedure until he asked this question. She said she lived alone, and suddenly the conversation shifted. Maybe it's best we just manage with medication, he told her, without explaining the pros and cons. What he didn't bother to ask was that Evelyn had neighbors who adored her, a niece who lived 10 minutes away, and a church group who'd show up at her door with casseroles and rides to appointments in a heartbeat. She wasn't without help. She just wasn't married. That single assumption almost cost her the chance at a treatment that could restore her energy and confidence. So if you hear this question, pause and answer it fully. I live alone, but I have people ready to help me during recovery. Or, I'll make arrangements if needed. Let them see you're not alone, because being single or living independently doesn't mean you're without a safety net. And it should never mean being denied care. Question number 4. Do you think it's worth it at this stage in your life? This one is like a dagger wrapped in silk. It's not just ageism. It's a question that forces you to defend your right to live fully, no matter how many candles are on your birthday cake. Doctors who ask this may not realize how loaded it sounds. But for the patient sitting in that chair, it can feel like someone is putting a price tag on your time. I think about Gloria, 75, vibrant, with a wicked sense of humor and a love for painting. She was diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. The treatment plan was straightforward and offered an excellent chance for full remission. But her oncologist tilted his head and said, "Do you think it's worth it at this stage in your life?" Gloria told me later. It was like he was asking if I should just give up. She went home, sat in her art studio, and stared at a blank canvas for hours. Thankfully, she came for a second opinion. We talked about her prognosis, her goals, and the years she could still enjoy. She chose treatment. 2 years later, she's cancer-free and still painting sunsets that hang in her local gallery. The next time someone asks you this question, remember you define what's worth it. Not them, not anyone else. If a treatment can give you more good years, more time with the people you love, more mornings to wake up and feel the sun on your face, it's worth it. Question number 5. Do you really want to live through that kind of recovery? This is the one I warned you about at the start. It's the question that can sound like kindness but is often a carefully disguised push toward inaction. Yes, some recoveries are hard. Some require patience, grit, and temporary discomfort. But here's the truth. Sometimes a short, challenging recovery is the bridge to years of freedom and mobility. I once treated Helen, 70, who had a severe hip fracture. Surgery could get her walking again, but the doctor she saw in the ER leaned in and said, "Do you really want to live through that kind of recovery?" She hesitated. He made it sound unbearable. Weeks in bed, painful rehab, endless inconvenience. But no one mentioned the alternative. A life in a wheelchair, dependence on others for every small task, and a dramatic decline in her overall health. When Helen came to me, I told her the full story, the hard parts and the hopeful parts. She decided to go for it. The recovery wasn't easy, but she worked through it. 6 months later, she walked into my office with a smile so big it brought tears to my eyes. The point is, recovery is temporary. Regret can last forever. So if you ever hear this question, don't let the fear of short-term difficulty steal your long-term freedom. Ask for the full picture. Ask what life will look like if you don't choose the treatment. Then make your choice with eyes wide open. Closing message. These 5 questions might sound gentle, even caring, but they can carry weighty assumptions about your worth, your resilience, and your right to decide what happens to your own body. The key is to recognize them, push back with confidence, and demand the information and respect you deserve. Because here's the truth. Your health journey is yours alone. Whether you're 60 or 90, you have the right to ask, to know, and to choose. And the next time you hear one of these questions, I hope you'll remember this conversation and answer in a way that puts your future back in your hands.